touched upon the personal preferences of the local user there.
That's on the payment side. So the final, the payment side. Now
on the payment.
Now on let's say the culture, the local culture. What do locals spend money on?
So that was my next area is on the personal. On what, or to be said differently, where do you see avenues of growth for the business, right? So understanding this consumer, where do they spend their money? Food, right? We get that.
Yeah. So here we have to make a distinction between the expat population as well as the local population.
Okay.
This is number one. Second thing is, of course, you have the payments for the necessities: food, health, education.
Yeah. So your daily bills, energy,
gas, power, water, your other, the
connectivity,
the rent,
basic necessities. Yeah.
Yeah, these necessities, these payments will not go away. So this is the every
your recurring bills. Yeah, these are your recurring monthly, weekly, whatever have you bills.
And if you're able to grab the attention of customers in these avenues, or in these, then it's a profitable business. If you can, develop a beverage that's more popular than Pepsi or Coca-Cola, then you're on the way to make millions.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you have like restaurants, coffee shops, bakeries, pastries. So you have all these types of businesses. It depends. If you're talented, you have good food, very good presentation, then these types of businesses will grow.
But if you think about it like that, you will grow, but to a certain level, because at least from an external observer, I see it as it's stuck to an individual. I haven't seen it in too many industries there that it transformed from an individual skilled person to a model. Like when you say, I produce the best pastries, or I'm the best baker. It hasn't transitioned from that to for example, a chain of bakeries. Not in a wide model yet.
Well, there are examples that, for example, we have in Saudi Arabia, Munch Bakeries. Munch Bakeries, they do cupcakes. So they do very, very lovely cupcakes, and they worked hard on the presentation, of the brand, social media, the perception of the public, as well as the taste of the product itself.
Okay.
So they got widespread success. And it developed. I don't know how many. I think hundreds of branches they have now. They start.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yeah.
So that's kind of a local success story.
Yeah.
It's a local brand. They developed kind of a product. They worked on the perception, because when you're talking to consumers, perception is everything. You have to focus on how you look towards consumers. The taste has to be excellent, the presentation has to be excellent, the service has to be excellent. If you have all these in place, then you have the platform for growth in your vertical. Till now, we have many businesses that have poor customer service, very, very poor customer service. But you keep going to them because, for example, there's no alternative.
It's another way to be successful, I guess.
Yeah, like American Airlines, between brackets, in the US, Airlines, or there are other competitors that have poor service. Yeah, you have 2 or 3 players. That's it in the market. So you're stuck with them.
there's not a lot of drive for, there's no disruption in the market. There is not a big drive for innovation and creativity. Yeah, it's possible.
So so that's let's say the basics. You have we kind of said a good product, number one. You have a good presentation, number two. You have great customer service, number three. So I think these are the things.
But there's one thing I haven't heard yet is that. So does that mean like price doesn't play a role? Is it a price sensitive market? Is it not a price sensitive market? Where does it play?
Price is comparative. Are you buying a car? Are you comparing are you selling a Lamborghini or are you selling a Toyota? So it depends. Depends on each and every. But price is not the issue. I've seen, of course, number one, if you're trying to sell to a market, you're a startup or trying to sell to a market, you need to understand, do they have the cash? This is number one. All right, it's maybe a great market, but do they have the cash to spend on your product?
Yeah, is there disposable income to throw away, right? That's the key word here, especially if it's a consumer-based product.
Yeah, can they pay you? That's number one. For example, all right, I have the student sector, which is growing, and you have the youth, which is 60% of the population. Can they pay you for your services? Do they have the money? For example, high school students or
the question here is monetization.
17, do they have the money? That's the question that you need to answer. Or can their parents provide the money? And here we had one startup, I believe, Noon Academy. Noon Academy is a Saudi startup in the education sector. So they provide online tutoring for students. So it's like private courses instead of the private have private teachers and private mentorship. So you have kind of this low cost solution for private tutoring to students. Now they got, I think, $8 million in funding to build to scale their platform locally and regionally. Because it's a market and parents are paying for private tutoring.
Yeah, that's definitely a market, and you can.
But as we said, this type of startup is in the essential. Education. Education is one of the essentials that consumers spend on. This is the as I said, education, health, rent, gas bills, phone bills. Energy, power bills, as well as food. So the basics, all these basics, there is a market, people are spending, but you have to go above the noise. There's a lot of noise because there are a lot of players. How many shawarma restaurants do you have? Hundreds? Thousands?
I'm sure.
Yeah, you need to go above that noise. And if you need going now to the tech sector, I need to disrupt something. So in this market, if I need to disrupt this market, so I need to look for can I provide something unique that others are not providing, that other local
or is it something additional on top of an essential, one of the essentials you mentioned? So it's either a disruption or an added service that simplify their life, right? So you can be able to highlight the distinct factor or the differentiator that makes you a unique selling product, right?
And the big names, they're capitalizing on technology. So, for example, in the retail sector, you have Jarir, which sells, it's a bookstore as well as sells computer equipment and accessories, mainly. So the first, they had the digital presence, and they grew from the 70s till, let's say, the mid 2000s.
Yep.
only depending on physical stores. Now, after I believe 2000, maybe 2010, 2012, they started focusing on their digital presence. So they do have now an e-commerce platform. So all the major now retailers have an e-commerce platform linked to it. For example, IKEA, they have now an e-commerce platform. Sacco, which is kind of like Costco in the US, they also have an e-commerce platform, e-commerce offering. So they're capitalizing on the growth of e-commerce and the growth of technology. So they're spending on social media, and they're spending on providing an e-commerce platform for their customers. Now, as a startup, how can I capitalize on this? I see one of the avenues here, let's say for growth for startups, is social media. For example, my sister, she has her own business in Dubai. She sells jewelry, gold jewelry that she designs. So she's a designer and designs her own, let's say, collections, and sells them only across Instagram.
Oh.
Most of her sales come from Instagram. Of course, she's linked with other e-commerce providers in the region, to sell through them online. But mainly, her main avenue is selling through Instagram. And Instagram is becoming
basically your platform,
an e-commerce platform for these tiny startups or tiny businesses that are sprouting up here in the region, especially in the Gulf.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is popular over there with I imagine WhatsApp or something like that. So it makes sense to have it as a window.
Some others are, for example, they have WhatsApp groups and selling services through WhatsApp. So, I have WhatsApp, you have Instagram are, main vehicles for growing your business. But can we build something out of it? Can we have, a company, a large-scale company out of that? Everyone looks at Huda Qattan's model that she built, Huda Beauty, that she started on Instagram. I don't know how many followers she has now, like 25 million, 30 million followers on Instagram. And she built the brand based on her influence.